I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around 80,000 employees maintaining the current benefits that veterans have. Now, there is a line of thought I have that would make sense for me. But before I do that, I want to get your thoughts on a lot of employees being fired.
Right. So on its face, I agree with you. Yes. 80,000 is a big number. We're not talking about look, people were freaking out when 1,000 people got fired, right? That's less than 0.25%. Then another 1,400 people get fired. When we talk about 80,000, that's about 16, 17% of the entire workforce. Now, it's hard to imagine that there's not going to be some sort of negative collateral damage, right? Now, there's two ways that we're looking at this, and I think that your heart and your empathetic side looks at that 80,000 and goes, well, that sucks for those 80,000 people that are getting fired. Of those 80,000, let's say that we're very veteran empathetic, right? There's going to be veterans that are fired. There's going to be veterans in that number. That sucks. But that is one compartment. So let's sit that over there and let's focus on the actual department itself and its ability to serve veterans, right? It's hard to believe that it's not going to have a negative impact. Now, with that in mind, remember that I think it was 2023, it might have been 2024, there were 60,000 employees hired at the VA in a 1-year time frame. The VA sucked before those people got hired, and they sucked after. So I don't know. Like, look, nobody knows what's going on, right? I don't work there at any super high level, looking down and figuring all this stuff out. But still, from the outside looking in, I think there's going to be we're going to hit some bumpy roads. But again, 60,000 people were hired in the last year. What were those 60,000 people for? Well, PACT Act claims, for one. They were worried about this influx of PACT Act claims. Those have kind of come. Look, that was going to be a tsunami of stuff coming in, and then it's going to dissipate and go down. You're not going to get the same number of PACT Act claims a year from now that you did on year one. It's just everybody, it was so publicized. It was so in everybody's awareness, bam, everybody's filing claims. It's done, right? So the other piece on that is a PACT Act claim isn't necessarily like, oh, this is new business. This is new claims coming in. No, that person was still filing a claim. They just didn't include sinusitis. Now they're like, ooh, presumptive for sinusitis? Yeah, let's add that. So they didn't get more claims. They got more claimed conditions, I believe. And then with your Vietnam folks having hypertension as a presumable, right? So now they're coming back and filing a new claim, right? So I have to think that there has to be a gauge on the slowdown of PACT Act claims and that kind of slowing down. So that's the benefit side. The bigger piece, though, was the healthcare side, because the VA, through Congress and in the executive branch last year, opened the doorway to more access to more veterans for healthcare. They lowered the barrier to healthcare. For those that don't know, the past used to be a veteran could not just walk into VA and get healthcare. You had to have a qualifier in order to obtain healthcare. The most common qualifier was, I have a service-connected condition, and that's why I'm now getting care from the VA. So the healthcare side, I think, is going to be more impacted from 80,000 than the benefit side at the end of the day for me. Back to you, Clay.
Yeah, so I'm more so on the healthcare side as well. I think healthcare will be affected. Now, there is a line of thought, like if we're going to look at both sides of the argument, what would make sense is this administration, and I think we've said this, over like 2 years ago, this administration is going to go full throttle in community care. Okay, we see that with Trump and the Mission Act in 2018-ish. We see that with Complete the Mission Act on the floor right now. We see that with where Doug Collins, the VA secretary, feels on community care. He's all in. And then even the undersecretary of the VA is all in on community care. So it's going to happen. You may not like it, whatever, it's going to happen. And so with that, what that tells me is, okay, are these positions and the roles and responsibilities of these positions going to be farmed out to community care? Because then that would make sense. I would see, hey, we don't need these positions anymore because they're going to be farmed out to community care. The whole purpose of going through community care is because it's cheaper, not necessarily, Medicare style payments, but it's cheaper long term, like employees, infrastructure, benefits for employees, all the little billion things it takes to run an organization. That's where I could at least see a justification of firing healthcare employees. The issue is it's not 5,000, 10,000, it's 80-ish thousand. That's a lot, dude. What I would like, I would like more transparency on this, because first, this was leaked. Okay. The only reason the VA even made a statement was because the media got wind of it. And then it blew up in everyone's faces. This was about 3 days ago. So right now we're recording this on the 8th. It was about 3-4 days ago from that. And so you see all these indicators happening. That's the big issue. Okay. What I would like to see is what positions are on the table to be cut. Is it security guards that are checking IDs? Or is it healthcare providers? Or is it VSRs, right? Like those are way totally different conversations, and we just don't know. Now, 80,000, no one can convince me it's 80,000 security guards. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But that'd be a lot of security guards. So I do think benefits will be affected. Although the VA secretary has said they won't, I do think they will. Now it's like, okay, well, what's the effect? Is it going to be farm veterans out to community care? Because that's what's going to happen anyways. That would make sense. Or is it, hey, ooh, sorry, your claim's going to take 9 months to adjudicate because we fired adjudicators. Those are way two different conversations, and we just don't know. And you did bring up a few points here, and I'm going to kick it back to you after the PACT Act. The PACT Act was huge, not just for claims, but for healthcare. And tons of employees were hired during the Biden administration post-PACT Act. That's a fact. Here's another fact. This administration pretty much wants to dismantle anything that happened over the last 4 years. That would be like a blanket statement across all agencies, not just the VA. And so another question I have is the administration looking at it from the last 4 years bad? Or is the administration looking at it from, we want to put veterans first? Again, those are two different perspectives that we just don't know. Now, the VA secretary, I do like the VA secretary. And I've said this many times, when it comes to firing the 1,000 plus employees and 1,400 employees, not a big fan of that. I'm definitely not a big fan of 80,000 employees at all. But to me, what would be the deciding factor? Okay, do I support this? Yes or no? It would be, what's the scope? Is it veterans first, or is it last 4 years bad? Okay, if it's veterans first and it does end up being more community care, they said that was going to happen. That's essentially what veterans voted for in the first place. If you voted for, that party, and so you are literally getting what you voted for, which is good. Community care is good. People might badmouth that, but the previous administration went all in on community care too, with the exception of the last year there. I don't know if you want to dive into the leaked email or not, but those are my thoughts on this. They're kind of all over the place, and I almost don't know what to think, because 80,000 is huge.